Don't do. Hello. We're excited to be here today. We're talking about SDV Medical. We're talking about why partner with us. And we're very excited to have Dan, our CEO, and Mark, our Executive VP of Contracts, to talk about all the great value propositions we offer for partnering with vendors and why we can make a great partner for medical device vendors to get their products into the VA and DoD. And so we're going to start with Dan. So Dan, you founded this company on the mission to get vets access to the best possible products in the hospital environments, whether it's office products or medical products. So what's the opportunity you saw when you looked at doing this that vendors were missing and how you could help them bring the best to the VA?
Yeah, I mean, great way to lead this off, David. I had 10 years previous to starting SDV of the VA and DOW, then DHA facilities being my customer. So I knew that processes. I knew where the gaps were. I knew where companies were deciding how to partner with the VA, whether it be through a reseller or go on their own. So I saw all the different models. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. And you saw the gaps, especially from on the outset from furniture, and then we saw some gaps on the medical side. So we've grown to fulfill those gaps and bring technology to bear. The other day, being a veteran myself and seeing a lot of my guys going through the troubles and problems they had of gaining access to the right care, I want to bring that technology so that the veterans have access to that technology that the civilian hospitals have as well. So it's really giving them parity, giving them equal access to those technologies that are life-saving technologies and treatments that they should have access to. So it's really fulfilling that gap and bringing technologies to bear.
That's awesome. So, Mark, we pulled you out of digging through all those contracts. I don't even think you can be seen behind the desk of all that paper. We pulled you out. You're here with me. I got to dig into that brain of yours. You have 30 years of working on the contracting officer side. God bless you. I don't even understand the stuff that you have probably seen. It's probably crazy. So, what have you seen vendors consistently get wrong when trying to sell to the DOW or the VA? And what did you bring to the table to help us help them?
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, David. Howdy. Thank you for that question. Going back to 96 and working my way forward until I retired, which is July 1st, 2024, I've had the benefit of seeing lots of government contractors, literally hundreds and hundreds. And I would say the biggest thing that I've seen is that those contractors are used to interacting with other commercial entities, and they're used to utilizing the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, or whatever state laws that are in play where they're doing business. When they step foot into the government federal landscape, it is a whole different set of rules and regulations. You got the FAR, which stands for the Federal Acquisition Regulation. You have the Veterans Administration Acquisition Regulation, which is the VA supplement, which is the VAR. Then you have the DFAR, which is the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation. And within the DFARs, or DOW, what used to be DOD, you have all the agencies have their own agency supplements, such as the Department of Army has their own rule book.
So also you have the OMG.
Yeah, oh my God, you got that too. So yeah, and again, then you have the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulation. You have United States Code. You have the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, and their body of board precedent, because they decide, disputes, if you will.
All right, now someone could be playing Office Bingo and count the number of acronyms now.
There's a lot.
Crazy. They would be bingoing it up and down.
And I'm trying to spell them out instead of just kind of whipping them out.
No, but it's good. That shows how important you are. You are the great translator. So the universal bus into that government world, brother.
And that is the point that I was trying to make with that incredibly verbose explanation. It is a different language. And I think I hit the nail on the head. It is a different language.
So now we were talking about something offline about congressional obligations. Some commercial entities might think, oh my God, this is all got to be congressional funds. And this is part of the reason that you have all this. What's your thoughts on that?
They are. I mean, a contract award is funded by taxpayer dollars appropriated by Congress. And going back to the second part of your question, my role, I see my role as acting as a bridge,
Mhm.
if you will. I'm a bridge between that contractor and the government to make sure that they both communicate and the supplies and the services the government wants, they're traveling across that bridge. And when it comes to the requirements from the other side, they go across that bridge as well. Because you're now dealing with appropriated dollars, of course, the federal government has its strings attached to it. Those strings are embodied in all those different regulations that I've mentioned.
Yeah.
The FAR, the VAR, the DFAR, you name it. So yes,
Basically, you protect us from the troll under the bridge that you help us cross.
I try to protect everybody because I look at my role and being a former civil servant, and as my mom used to say and does say, it takes two to tango. So I just want to make sure everyone's staying in step.
Mama Blevins. We have to use those wise words of Mama Blevins. I love that.
And everybody is on the same sheet of music.
I love it. So now let's dig into understanding the VA and the DOW hospital landscape. And Mark, we'll go back to you again here. We'll talk about the DOW and the VA. The hospitals operate completely different from the commercial health system, right? Can you walk vendors who are potentially listening to this, walk through how the purchasing decisions actually get made inside of these buildings?
Sure. I'll do them in reverse chronological order. At the very end, when everything is said and done, you have a contracting officer who signs most likely an SF 1449, which is a government contract. It is that person's signature at box 31A at the very lower right-hand corner of that contract. That is the end result of all that work, all that effort, application of all those rules and regulations. And in many regards, this is the beginning, because once you sign, you now have a contractor who's obligated to perform. But leading up to that, you got a CO, you have contract specialists, depending on the size of the procurement. You can have multiple contract specialists. You have program people. You have SME, subject matter experts. You have the end user. For example, if you're dealing with the VA, you may have doctors, you may have nurses, clinicians. If you're working within the Department of War context, you may be working with commissioned officers, non-commissioned officers. I've worked with general officers. So you name it. It is a wide open playing field of possible stakeholders in this process. So
that just in and of itself can spin your head. Now, I got to ask you this. Compliance and procurement landmines. What are some of the worst situations or things you see happen when vendors do this wrong?
Well, when a vendor turns into a contractor, meaning they're getting awarded a contract, the first thing they look is at the lower right-hand corner. They just want to make sure that dollar amount's correct.
I got some money, baby.
Yeah. They put their signature at box 30. They put their signature at box 30A on the lower left-hand corner, and that about stops their review.
Yep.
They sign it. They're like, oh boy, I just got a $5 million contract. I'm looking good.
Yep.
And for example, talk about landmines. Let's assume the contract is 100 pages long. Well, you got potentially 100 pages of landmines.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you go to page 2 of the contract, and let's assume this is a VA contract. On page 2 of the VA contract, the continuation pages, you'll see some boxes checked saying payment is in arrears. Payment is made on a monthly basis in arrears. And all of a sudden, this is just a quick example because I know our time's limited. Contractor performs and it ships something, and then it sends an invoice the next day.
Yeah.
And the invoice is rejected after 2 weeks, and the contractor's like, oh my God, why did my invoice get rejected? Well, you didn't read your contract. Payment's in arrears. So the government's not even going to think about entertaining your invoice until it receives your product, it is delivered, it is inspected, and it is accepted. Now, all those steps may occur contemporaneously, but they're individual steps. Only after acceptance will the government pay that invoice. And then the government has 30 days to pay that invoice.
Massive cash management challenges that Dan knows extremely well.
So right there, that's on page 2.
You missed that one.
Yeah, you missed that one.
As you were just into that number, baby, that number.
Or better yet, we could go to page 1. When you go to box 17A on the 1449, that's the very first page. It has the name of the contractor. Sometimes a contractor will let their SAM.gov entity registration lapse.
Oh,
Guess what? You have to be registered in sam.gov to be awarded a federal contract. So they go through all that effort. They go to sign it. Someone like me who's anal, they go back and make sure that that contractor's registered in SAM. And you're like, oh, so sorry. Your registration expired March 9th. I can't award it to you. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean,
100
so Dan, so going to Dan, we got this crazy, you know, he's dressed up in his Easter best, as you said, right? we took him out from under his office and piles of paper. So from a business standpoint, you got Mark here, this insider, this 30-year contracting officer. You know, how does this help SDV? How do we change the game for our vendor partners with Mark's qualifications and skills?
Yeah, I mean, the expertise and the experience that Mark brings allows us to navigate those things that we're talking about, the FAR, the DFAR, make sure that you can live with the contract. That's really, there's a lot of vendors that can go get a contract and be awarded a contract, but living with the contracting and actually performing in that contract is where Mark's experience comes to bear. And usually at the beginning part to say, guys, you got to understand what you're signing yourself up for here.
We got to add the acronym then, LWI, live with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, Mark knows how a contracting officer thinks, you know, because he's been there, done that, and how they're going to execute, make those decision-making processes. So that's really helpful too, because we can share that perspective with our vendors and say, guys, government time is government time. And also, by the way, especially relates to the VA, you know, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. So you can't just say it's going to be the same at VA Pittsburgh as it is VA Salisbury. It just isn't. Yeah. Sometimes we might have two different contracts. So understanding the nuances of that is very, very important, and why it's being done that way. So Mark can help vendors understand that landscape, navigate for them, as well as translate for them.
I love it, man. Just all this stuff, being able to help a vendor with some amazing new product, get into the VA so those vets can have it. I mean, I love that part of our mission. So now we talked about both of them together, but Dan, we'll start you. You had some really interesting things to say about this question when we were talking before. What are the differences between the DOW hospitals and the VA hospitals, and what they do, how they do it?
Despite the fact that, you know, both of them are government agencies, they're run very similarly, but they have different patient populations. You know, DOW has younger population, obviously, service members and their family members. Better VA hospitals, usually an older population. You have still a lot of Vietnam vets, Korean War vets, you know, that were probably smack dab in the middle of that generation. And a lot of the Desert Shield, Desert Storm folks are now, you know, pretty much my generation is coming to bear inside the VA. So you've got that to think about. So technologies are different. Obviously more cancer prevalence within VA. So there's differences there. But then you have differences of, you know, the DOW is all about readiness. It's all about making sure that soldiers, sailors, you know, airmen and Marine is ready to go and ready to deploy, whether it be training or an actual operation. Case in point, we're living through Operation Epic Fury right now. They want service members ready on those ships, on land, in the planes, getting those planes ready. So it's a different focus when it comes to DOW, and understanding that and making sure your product or service nests within that readiness piece is very key.
That got me when you talked about that before. I was like, wow, you know, and the nuances of what products they need and, you know, how you would communicate that, so important. And you talked about, you might talk to a commissioned officer on the DOW side, which is different than talking to a doctor who's just a civilian. Exactly. So Mr. Blevins, the contracting vehicles, different, same, what's the skinny there?
Both, which is, you know, of course, a good contracting mumbo jumbo answer.
That's right.
I mean,
they have that veil of darkness, brother.
Yeah, I mean, they all have the FAR, but, you know, if you're dealing with the VA, they have their own supplement, the VAR. Mm-hmm. Department of War has a DFAR, and of course, you know, to make it even more complicated, you know, DOD, now Department of War, follows Title 10 of the United States Code. Civilian agencies, they normally follow Title 41. With the VA, they even have another layer. They got Title 38 USC. So
there are nuances. There's no doubt about that.
Yes. So I guess as succinctly as I can put it, you have to figure out what is the applicable source of law and regulation.
There you go. And we know that, and we can help the vendor get there fast. So now let's switch over to kind of working inside the facility. Dan, you put together this phenomenal team. I'm lucky enough to be able to work with them. 40 plus years of medical experience, very specific to this space. What does that mean? So what does that mean to a vendor? How does that change how they represent the vendor, how they can work within the VA and the DOW environments?
I mean, the folks that we've hired, super talented, super experienced, but they've walked in the shoes of those vendors previously. So they were a vendor calling on a VA or calling on a commercial customer. So they understand the sales processes, getting something clinically accepted. So they can have empathy. They can grab the hand of that commercial salesperson and say, here's what we're going to do, right? And lead them right to the right people within the VA. So not only do we know the commercial sales processes, but we're really familiar, I should say we're experts at the government sales process.
Yeah, we're definitely expert, no doubt. You're selling yourself short, my brother. You're an expert.
The process, knowing that process, which we execute for that vendor, right? We bring value, because then that commercial salesperson can go sell somewhere else, whether academic facility or another commercial customer they might have in their territory. So we give them bandwidth, which is great. And then we give the VA or DOW, we know the process. Sometimes, I hate to say it, better than them.
Yeah.
Because there's uniqueness. And in all fairness to those contracting officers, they're dealing with all different types of contracts. They're not dealing with a contract for just a Da Vinci robot. They might be dealing with a contract to pave the parking lot. So those are very different requirements. Yep. And so helping them understand the uniqueness of that VA contract as it was awarded, and allowing them to say, hey, this is a very easy contract to execute. In fact, you're not even executing a contract, you're executing a delivery order. So us being able to explain that, have the expertise and communicate that to them makes their job and their life easier as well, which everyone likes.
I love that. And so, Mark, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but you've seen it both sides. So you see all the moving parts. And so you see, what happens at the contracting officer side, how that contracting officer has to bring all these parties in. And man, I see all of our medical team coming to you on a constant basis, the Robs, the Johns, the Vanessas, the Gages, and the Maddies, pulling you in, asking you questions. So, how does this all work? How does all these pieces apart work together to navigate, and how do you navigate those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a contract, it's between parties. And you got to make sure those parties have again, meeting of the minds, that they're on the same sheet of music, because that is the key to a successful contract. There's no surprises. There's no gotchas. There's no, hey, I didn't know I had to do that, or, hey, you were told you can't do that, and so forth. So, yeah, it is a complicated dance, but that's why it's important. Dan mentioned this earlier, having that contract you can live with, because that contract should hum along. Right. In other words, when you look at a contract after 5 years, you can see where it has, let's say, I don't know, no more than 10 mods, and assume each option year is a mod. So there's 4. And then you added some new products, which is a natural evolution of a contract, versus a contract that has, let's say, 50 to 100 mods. That's probably not a sign of success.
There was no LWI there, Ben.
No. So, I would say my role is making sure, and this benefits the government and it benefits SDV. And it's simply this, and I'll try to put this as succinctly as I can.
I love that when you do that.
Making sure that contract just hums along.
Yep. Ease of
like
use.
A Swiss watch. Right, Dan? Like a Swiss watch.
Yep. Make it easy for everyone to use.
Yeah. So Dan, you have a co-partner, co-owner, co-founder, Tyler, and now he's got some really cool technical chops. He worked on this EDI infrastructure. So tell us about that. Why is that important for our vendor partners to know that we have this, and what does it do for them?
So it goes back to what I just said, ease of use. So it's short, it makes things efficient, it makes things accurate. You want to make sure you're getting paid, right? So, and the quicker you get paid, obviously, the better that is too. So when we put the EDI piece in for getting paid from the VA, and now we're working on it with DOW accounts, it just eliminates the need for additional bodies, right, and human interaction. So now we're working by exception rather than the rule. So if the system recognizes an error, it kicks it out, and then people can focus on that. Otherwise, the 1,000 invoices that are correct just simply flow through with no human interaction every single month. So
amazing.
that keeps costs down for the government as well, because we're not having to hire 15 people on the accounts receivable side to track, 172 facilities and thousands of invoices every month. So one, we're accurate, the next thing, we're efficient, and we're keeping costs lower for everyone. So I think
that also allows our phenomenal customer service team to focus on other more important elements of the relationship than just,
right.
Hey, did we get paid? Hey, did you get the invoice?
Yeah, and I think for my perspective and Tyler's perspective, running the business, it makes things predictable for us too, because we know that if we're invoicing on an accurate basis, on a monthly basis, we know what those cash flows are going to look like too, and that's really important to running the business.
Yeah, talking about paying, where the payment terms are and your cash management, which is so critically important. The last piece of this is, Dan, I hear a lot of times you and Tyler talking about the fact that you wanted to be special and different, and the fact that you wanted to offer more than just what a typical SDV OSB would do. So tell us about the marketing capabilities that you put in. Why do you do that? What does that do for a vendor partner?
Yeah, I think, we're hitting on several things that we are different in. That we have an actual sales force, right, that will get on a plane, get in a car, and walk into a facility with another vendor. So that's different. We have a marketing team, you and Megan and others, in the graphic design, that are behind the scenes working on not just web pages, but also the communication piece out to the VA and making them aware of technology, bringing our vendors onto these LinkedIn Lives and sharing that technology and sharing their solutions for those veterans. And then the EDI piece is super important. I think when we go back to the marketing piece, not just the LinkedIn Lives, but how do we share something that's happening that's great in Vision 8 with Vision 7? The marketing team helps that public affairs officer. Every VA has one, every DoD facility has one, right? And making them aware that technology is decreasing lung cancer for veterans, for example. Yep. And here's a technology that's doing that. Because a lot of times that VA person, that doc, may not know about that, but through the airwaves of LinkedIn and marketing, we can let them know out there.
That's great. So now we're going to move to the partner experience. So Dan, like you said, you've been involved in medical products, both sides, commercial, government. So what medical products or companies are best positioned to win in the VA and DOW right now? What are those that are best positioned to win?
So, those that have technology to bear, we're obviously squarely centered in robotic surgery. We've got 3 phenomenal partners who are bringing minimally invasive robotic surgery to bear. And that's, it's being accepted left and right within the VA. I think there's over 140 Da Vinci machines now within VA. So that, to Mark's point, that Da Vinci contract that we have is simply humming along because it's been in place for this is the 3rd iteration of that contract. So the VA has done a very good job to make that efficient. They have locally ordering officers assigned, which makes things really efficient for that facility and for the system. And then we know the products, and we know that contract just as well to make sure that the data, the touch points with the customers are aware of what's going on with that technology. So I think any vendor that may be out there that says, "Hey, I've got a new technology," and they're interested in bringing that to the VA, hey, give us a call. Give a service-disabled veteran small business a call because they can help you navigate that process of introducing a product or a service to the VA or DoD and have that technology, make a veteran's life better.
And that's the passion. We want these partners coming to us with things that can make vets' lives better and not to be scared off. I'm not going to touch that because of all the stuff that Mark just talked about, right? And then the vet loses out.
Well, and the other part of that piece is the doctor's life or the nurse's life better too.
True. Good point.
Right?
Great point.
So, the doc wants that technology because they're going to bring that to bear on that patient. So having that tool that's better. Perfect example is the Ion that we've introduced. I talked to many pulmonologists and many that I saw early on when that product was released. They said, "We've never seen in my lifetime a product that does what this does." Right? It's life.
And all that lung cancer stuff, Dan. That stuff's coming to bear. But based on your generation and what you did for our country and the people where you were with did for our country, and all the stuff in the burn pits and all the chemicals and everything else.
Right.
I mean, that's going to become significantly important. And it's so great that product is out there and we're helping get that product into the hospitals.
Exactly.
So Mark, USI, 90 days. What does the first 90 day look like for a new vendor? What does that look like with our support? Not by themselves, but with our support. First 90 days.
Well, I mean, you sign, that's day 1, presumably. most government contracts have what's called a kickoff meeting, where the contractor gets together with the CO, CS, program office, and the end user, where you basically say, yep, we both signed the contract. Here's the expectations. Here's the first steps. If it's a service contract and you have to onboard folks, you know, you have to go through that process so they can get a PIV card. Or if it's DOD or Department of War, you get a CALC card. But with SDV, instead of facing that kickoff meeting and all those buzzwords and all that new language, you have a trusted, experienced partner who has the highest presumption of familiarity for this entire process.
Like Mickey in Rocky's corner. This is for the older people, right? But Rocky's out there boxing and Mickey's back there in the corner helping him out.
Actually, a little bit different. It's Mickey, it's Clubber Lang, it's Apollo Creed facing the Russian guy. So, yeah.
I like that.
So,
I like that. That partner in the corner. So you don't have to fight that fight yourself. We know how to maneuver those first 90 days, which are critically important to get the speed that you need to really start hitting the ground running.
yes, sir.
I love that. I love it. And then Dan, example. You got it. You know, you had some good examples there, but do you have another one, if you don't mind, that what does a win look like with vendor partner in the VA or DOW hospitals?
Yeah, I mean, a quick one. Obviously, our partnership with Intuitive is very important, and I think we gave them additional bandwidth, and we set them up for their biggest year ever last year in 25. Right? They had introduced Da Vinci 5, and so our knowledge of that, our expertise and experience around that technology, we were able to run right alongside all those sales reps from Intuitive to help the VA understand to upgrade their technology from XI to Da Vinci 5. And that was phenomenal year. And then I think the other thing that just happened here recently, you know, we had a transition into Smith and Nephew, and they were coming from a different vendor. That one of the contracts was expiring, but within literally 2 weeks, we were able to respond to the RFI, make sure that and there was a continuation of services. So Smith and Nephew was happy. I mean, we literally had signed the contract, and a week later they had a government contract signed. So we're able to move very, very quickly because we know all those things that Mark's talking about, to watch outs, the landmines, and then how things should be. So we're able to get there faster, and the government appreciates that too, because that speed, I think, creates trust, and then trust just creates more speed.
Yeah, which is great. Trust and speed. You know all about that, Dan, from a leadership standpoint. All right, this is a dangerous question. We're closing this out now. Mark, I'm looking for honest advice. Oh, gosh, I don't know if they want to ask this question. From a medical vendor, for a medical vendor watching right now, they have a phenomenal product, but they've been intimidated by the VA and the DOW. What's your honest advice?
First and foremost, make a decision. Do you want to sell to the federal government? It's simple as that. It's a binary decision. It's yes or no.
Yes or no.
And if it's yes, they want to sell, then there's another binary decision. Do they try to do it on their own, or do they partner with a partner such as SDV? That's it. So again, I know you guys sometimes abhor my lengthy explanations.
No, not necessarily.
And I'm trying to keep it succinct. So I broke it down to 2 binary yes or no's.
You did.
And if you opt to partner with a SDVSB such as SDV, all I can say is give us a first look. We have a proven success track record that's unparalleled in federal procurement, period.
And I'm sure you saw some horror stories when the company did it alone.
Yeah, there's all kinds of T for Ds, and that is another acronym that stands for termination for default, which is bad.
Oh, I like that one. T's and D's.
Which is bad.
Yes, very bad. Very bad. There was no LWI with a T for D.
No.
I'm getting pretty good at this. Dan,
but there's an OMG, but you got an OMG.
All right, Dan, last question. That's it. Let the big dog speak last. So, Dan, final question. What's your vision? What's your vision for SDV Medical becomes for vendor partners over the next few years? What's your vision for partners over the next few years?
You know, we've gotten feedback from both VA as well as the commercial medical device community that, you know, we've squarely set ourselves up to be in the center of robotic surgery. We've got the soft tissue portion with Da Vinci. We've got the cranial and spinal with Globus Medical, and then we got orthopedic now with Smith and Nephew. So I think we're squarely, bringing technology to bear. Any company that approaches us, we've got companies approaching us every week, and they've got really, really cool technology out there. So I think us adopting towards AI and how AI is incorporated into that technology that makes, helps docs make better decisions, gives them more information to make decisions more quickly, more accurately. So we're looking for partners that are going to bring technology to fight certain things, cancer, right? Or cochlear implants, or we can go on, right?
Yeah, on and on. Yeah.
As long as it helps that veteran on their healing journey, we're willing to look at that. It's got to fit certain criteria for us, right? And obviously it's got to fit for them. It's got to be a marriage, to what Mark says. We're really good at what we do. We've got some great experience. We've got some unique features as an FSP that some don't have. So we think, we're in a good position to help that technology come to bear and be a solution for that caregiver, and then obviously for that veteran or that service member and their family.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. Mark, always a pleasure. We're going to get you on shortly for the far away, far change that looks like people are trying to talk about. That'll happen here shortly. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Bye-bye.